In the world of Dotto Tech, I guess we now have a regular, Lindsay Smith. I think you're our reigning most often on guest.
Ooh, I feel special.
You should feel special. Lindsay Smith of lindsaysmith.com. She calls herself a digital living evangelist. And let's talk what's happening in the digital living world. Google Plus has hit, and it's increased Google's market cap by $20 billion almost overnight. What do you think?
I think you brought the point up recently in a blog post. Do we need another social network?
Yeah.
And I'm going to, it's challenging because Facebook's got the market share for social networks so far. Twitter's got it on the microblog side for kind of early adopter tech people. And Google's trying to get some of that share. And I like the approach that they're taking with it, but right now it's mostly early adopter tech geeks that have got into the first few rounds of it to try it out and test it and see where it goes. There's huge debate out there whether or not they're going to succeed with it or whether or not they're going to fail miserably. They have brilliantly tuned into the fact that people love to share photos and video, and they've made that obviously a very primary focus for this new social networking tool. And I have to say that Facebook is starting to feel a little bit dated now. And this is the problem with technology. As you build on it, it becomes more and more clunky. And so Google's now coming in with a smoother interface.
Cleaner
it's
approach.
cleaner because they can just start from scratch and just build it from there.
Well, let's take a step back and talk a little bit about what's the evolution of Facebook, because Facebook, of course, started out as a very social site, really designed for universities, for university students, and all about picture sharing and just kind of updates what's happening in your personal life. As the general population got on board and all these extra apps started getting written for it, and now it became an entertainment platform where you're playing games and you're doing all these other sorts of things, it kind of grew well beyond what it was originally designed for. I think where it breaks is in our blended lifestyle. The fact that we now have very few lines that separate our work and our personal life, and we try and fold both into Facebook. I personally find it kind of distasteful. Trolling, for lack of better terms, for business, or talking about business opportunities while there's pictures of my newborn niece on the same page.
Right.
So that juxtaposition between our personal life and our business life, the fact that Facebook is kind of a catch-all for everything, I think that's where Facebook breaks. And, not to speak at all about the privacy issues and all the other things that people are having issues with, I think it breaks in that area where we're talking about home and personal life. Now, right out of the gate, Google is allowing us to demarc people into different areas through these circles. I think the circles is the key to Google+.
I would agree because the circles allows you to say, hey, I'm going to attach these people to my family network, to my friend network, to my work network, and you make up the names of what those networks are, and then you send out broadcasts like your status feeds. You can filter them to whichever circle or network that you want to do. But what's interesting is Facebook has that already built in. Most people just don't use it or realize it
figure out how to do it.
Well, this is I laugh about this because I teach this stuff at BCIT, e-marketing and digital marketing. I'm constantly trying to bring the new marketers up to speed with what's going on in these networks. And Facebook is changing the rules so quickly that I'll have a screenshot up. I'll show them exactly how to do it, and a week later it's changed.
And
it's very frustrating.
This is where people are frustrated with Facebook because it does change. They're almost trapped in that Microsoft mentality now of, they can't change because the people are so used to the way of doing things because it's been the one that they've used for so long. So every time Facebook makes a subtle change, there's this hue and cry around it. Now, what you're talking about is setting up different profiles of different people where you can have a limited friends list where they can only see a limited number of things versus full. But naming that and then actually assigning people into those categories is very cumbersome within Facebook. It's something that I've been talking about as well and teaching people to do and using myself for a long time, but it's still beyond most of our ken. Whereas in circles, it's dead simple. It's even drag and drop.
It's a drag and drop, one click, and that's what they say with web usability. If you can make it happen within one click or one swipe, that's success. If it takes 2, 3, 4, then you're in trouble with the user base.
Did any of the other features capture your attention the way circles? We're talking about the what do they call their campfire? I should know this. The different community things that they've got with being able to get all the people together to have one chat.
Yeah,
one video conference chat.
I've explored around there a little bit, but really I'm not that excited about those other features at this point. One thing I can say that I did enjoy is the fact that I've been using the Google Calendar and Gmail, and I like the fact that when I'm in the Google interface, it's giving me my status updates even when I'm in different sections, like completely different Google products. That is very cool because it'll tell me, hey, this person's just added you to your circle, and vice versa. Do you want to add them back? And that I felt was a really great function.
That integration, and that's going to be one of Google's strengths, is this is not Google's entire business, whereas it's Facebook's entire business. This is just one part of the Google puzzle.
Yes.
And so it fitting with Gmail, it fitting with Google Calendars, it fitting with all of the other Google services. Yeah. Now, speaking of Google services, we're gonna take a slight step. We're only changing one word. It's not Google Plus, but Google Plus One. They've got this. It's like Microsoft and Explorer. I couldn't believe it 5 or 6 years ago when Microsoft could not come up with any product that didn't have the word Explorer in it, and it caused mass confusion in the marketplace. And here's Google marching lockstep down the exact same path. They released, well before Google Plus, they released Google Plus One, which nobody understands except you, Lindsay Smith.
Well, I think that people just all of a sudden started noticing when they're in search, if they're logged into a Google account, that a little plus one button is showing up beside search results. And what that does is it allows users to click on something that they like. So say I'm searching for a product online, it's a new HTC smartphone, and I'm like, ooh, I really like that, I want that one. I can click plus one to give it some social credibility and clout. Now what happens is Google within its network can tell who your friends are if you've had a Google account, if you've signed in and you've done that. It knows who your contacts are, and it will tell you what products your contacts like as well. So our search is now integrating social response and feedback because we know from a marketing standpoint that people really care about what their social network thinks.
So is this from a product perspective? Like if I'm searching for a restaurant and I click plus beside the restaurant that I've searched that I think is a good restaurant so my friends know that I like it.
Yes.
I mean, I'm trying to figure out who is going to click on the plus sign to add value? It's like giving props to...
It is. It's kind of like when you're in a forum post, though, and people read some of our blogs and they give us kudos or props, or they'll give a certain product or person.
They give you kudos and props. I get none.
I gave you a kudo today, Steve.
Thank you. You just did that because I begged for it. It doesn't count when you beg for it, but I accept it with great thanks and humility. But I'm just wondering, if plus one is it? See, Google tends to do these things. Google tends to just throw something at the wall, and it's almost like they don't care if we use it or not. It's just, it's another thing, and then they move on to the next thing.
Well, that's because they can use their algorithms to see whether or not it's going to fly or it's not going to fly. The best way to find out if something's going to be successful is to throw it out into the marketplace.
Okay, so I will ask you, Google Plus, the social networking site, is it going to fly or is it not going to fly?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think it's going to fly.
Okay.
I'm kind of 50-50 on this, but I am leaning towards the fact that it's going to fly. And
I don't think it's going to fly. I know it's going to fly.
We're going to have to revisit that 12 months from now.
We'll come back to that in just a second. I'll tell you why in a moment. But I want to follow this theme. Google Plus One, is it going to fly or is it not going to fly?
That's definitely going to fly, in my opinion.
You think it's going to fly?
I do.
Plus One is going to work?
Yes.
See, I think it has no chance because I'm not going to give anything props. I'm just too...
People are in love with their own opinions. It empowers them to think that they can have influence over what should be liked and not liked.
We will agree to disagree on that. Let's go back to the Google Plus. The reason Google Plus is going to take off is it does straddle that space between our work and our personal lives, and we are going to accept that. And people that think Facebook is too big, they're just ignoring history. We had MySpace before we had Facebook, and MySpace was enough that Rupert Murdoch spent, $20 billion to purchase, or $30 billion, I can't remember the exact number. We've had other examples, and we've got, the biggest example is sitting right down there in Redmond, Washington. Whoever thought Microsoft would be an afterthought in the computer world? But right now, they're struggling to keep up, and Google is just having their lunch at every turn.
Well, and I think too, if you look at it, MySpace the vision was no longer, hey, we're going to be a network for everybody. We're going to be a network for the music space. I think Facebook is going to be the network for the people that you lost touch with over the years.
Perhaps.
You know, it was all about finding your high school friends.
I don't think it'll go away the way MySpace has pretty much disappeared. But I think anybody who has, I think it will become increasingly marginalized. I think it will become increasingly on the fringe and more fluff. And the people that are playing Farmville and those sorts of things, it's going to be in that space. I'm hoping that those sorts of things don't infringe in the Google space, and I'm anticipating they probably won't, because I think Google will keep a little firmer hold. The one that I think might be in trouble in all this is LinkedIn. I think they might be an entity that could well go away. If you want more of Lindsay Smith's opinion, lindsaysmith.com is the place you want to go, or you can just drop by and see links to her here at Dotto Tech. Thanks, Lindsay.
Thank you.